Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about an updated build for Esiemo. Now Esiemo is not somebody that's thought very highly of in the current meta, but this character is very well known for high spike damage, and that is something you're going to want to have on the plains or in in-game content. And with the build I'm getting ready to show you, he actually has a lot of utility, movability, and ease of use, which makes him great for a lot of new players on the plains. And when you do finally build out Esiemo, you'll be surprised at just how oppressive he can be in the game. But having said all that guys, let's go ahead and hop into the video. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to be looking at, like always, is going to be the weapons, and for Esiemo we are going to go ahead and slap on the Secret Garden. We do like this for two different reasons. One, we really like the move speed that we can get off of this weapon, and two, we like how it synergizes with tech skills. Now I'm not going to go too much into the skill synergies, but do know that this does have a synergy with Esiemo, and we will be talking about it later on in the build. But for now, the main thing you're going to want to keep in mind with this weapon is just slapping on a handful of sprint cores. That way Esiemo can move around the battlefield exceptionally quick. The build that we're using actually allows him to move around the battlefield pretty quick on its own, but this is just going to let you have a little bit more maneuverability in your neutral game. Now when it comes to a secondary weapon, we're going to go ahead and slap on the last dagger, and this is something that I just suggest you have built and put on basically every descendant you have just for burst damage windows. The build that we're going with Esiemo makes him primarily a skilled descendant, but it doesn't hurt to have a secondary weapon on you just in case you run into a little bit of a pinch or some yellow shielded enemies depending on the content you're playing. So for this weapon, I would go ahead and put 1 chill attack core, 2 firearm cores, 1 fire rate, and 1 rounds per mag. This is just going to give you a very nice general rolled weapon that you can use in a lot of content, but is still set up to take into something like Void 10. And when it comes to the roll down bottom, we're just going to go ahead and build into both crit rate and damage, a little bit of firearm attack, and a little bit of weak point. Now if you've seen any of our videos, then you know what the general roll on this looks like, but that's what we're going to go ahead and slap on here. We're going to make sure this gun is useful in the most amount of content, that way you're not wasting a lot of cores. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and build into the weapon's base damage. We're going to add a little bit of fire rate. We're really going to build even more into that critical hit rate and damage. And then we're going to top it off with a little bit of weak point damage, a little bit of chill attack, and then slap on Firing Fiesta for very nice large burst windows. So for this build, I'm actually going to build into fusion and not tech. And the reason I like that is because we're really utilizing his 4 a lot in this build. And while you could get a little bit of damage out of tech for his mines, you're not going to be utilizing them as much. So really build into that fusion to make sure that his number 4 does an insane amount of damage. Now having said all that, go ahead and toss on the optimized condition for the tac rifle. That way you're really maxing out that damage. When it comes to the roll down bottom, I actually have fusion skill power boost and skill cooldown. Now this build, you will be overcapped on your skill cooldown. So you can always look at removing that and adding something down there like fire skill power boost ratio if you're looking for a little bit more damage. The reason I left skill cooldown on there is because every once in a while, for some reason Esiemo's narcissism seems to bug, and when it does, you will find yourself on a little bit of a longer cooldown. And while I could get just a little bit more damage out of the build by maybe swapping this out, I prefer to have that cooldown on there just as a stopgap in case something bad happens. This build is going to do a ton of damage no matter what you do, but just know that you can always roll that cooldown off for something if you want to change it up for either a little bit more damage or something that suits your playstyle a little better. So when it comes to the components, I actually want to talk about them for a second before I show you the components that we're using. I have tried this with a 4-piece firebrand, and I have tried it with a 2-piece mage and a 2-piece volcanic. The set that I'm getting ready to show you actually outperformed both of these in my tests. So the set that we're actually going to go with over either one of these is actually going to be the tried and true Slayer set. So for something like the Firebrand set, while it does add a little bit of damage, it doesn't seem to do any better than the Slayer set. So for that reason alone, we're just going to continue on with the Slayer set. Now when it comes to the rolls and the cores on here, I would highly suggest you get exactly what I have on the screen. Esiemo is very MP hungry, and if you do not have all the MP reduction and the max MP, you will find that he is a little bit hard to use. Outside of that, you're going to want all of the HP and the defense from the cores just to make sure Esiemo feels very tanky when you're running around, because he will be charging headlong into damage non-stop. So when it comes to the inversion reinforcement, these are going to be the 3 nodes that I'm picking up. The first one I'm going to go ahead and pick up is going to be Focus Boost. I do like this again because this is a very MP heavy build, and this is going to help get our cost down just a little bit. The second item we're going to add is Selective Neurostimulation, and we're adding this for the same reason. This is going to help you continue to keep uptime on your skills. With this being a skill build and a skill descendant, if you run out of MP, you are essentially dead in the water and you're not really helping your team. So anything we can do to help offset that is going to be a good thing. And with us using the Slayer set, we're going to be using up a lot of additional MP. The last item I'm going with here is just shield particle reconfiguration. And the reason I'm using this is because we do have quite a bit of defense in our build and it synergizes with this perk specifically. But at the end of the day, feel free to use any of the survivability perks as your third perk, as there's not really much else to add from the inversion reinforcement. And any one of these is just going to help make Esiemo feel a little bit better while he's running into all of the enemies in the fray. So when it comes to the Arche tuning, this is the board I would actually suggest you pick up. This is going to make use of 2 mutated cells. In the upper right, we're going to get fire cohesion, and in the upper left, we're going to get defense neutralization. Now, I've actually ran this with final preparation over defense neutralization, and even though it seems like it should be better on paper, what it ends up showing is that defense neutralization is better in the build, especially when it comes to follow-up hits. I've also modified this to where we didn't grab a second mutated cell and we picked up the gold node down bottom. And while picking up the gold node again did net us very similar results, it didn't do as well on subsequent hits. The big takeaway here is that this is the tree that I do like with Esiemo 4 right now. His abilities are typically going to take out everything in one shot except for the biggest, hardest enemies. And if for whatever reason he doesn't take them out, the defense neutralization here is going to allow his follow-ups to hit even harder and let the rest of his teammates do additional damage as well. For the dog, just go ahead and pick up the Hagios sheepdog. The other dog's not really going to net you anything as you're not really using any ammo whatsoever. And the Hagios sheepdog is just going to help give you a little bit of HP here and there, which will help with some of your survivability. So now it's time to look at the actual mods on the build. And I'm going to tell you to really pay attention to this segment because I've got a couple things to add to it, so don't just skip through it. So we are going to focus on Creative Explosion. We like this because it's a very mobile build and it allows him to do just a ton of damage over and over again. And the Narcissism really allows him to stack up a bunch of damage and still spam a ton of skills. So with the built-in Narcissism, we can actually bypass just a little bit of cooldown and add a ton more additional damage. So those are what you're going to be looking at when you look at his mods. But the one mod I want to talk about is actually MP Collector. This is the one mod that you can swap out if you want to change some things out. I personally have MP Collector on here because I do not like running out of MP when I'm out on the battlefield. Now, if you're playing with groups, you might want to get rid of MP Collector here and put something like an MP cost reduction mod. Now, if you feel like you're not running out of MP at all, you can always slap in a little bit of Decimator, and that's going to give you even more damage on top of the rest of the kit. And finally, I just have to say this because some people have been asking on my most recent videos, if for whatever reason you're finding that this build isn't full of enough survivability, you can always take off MP Collector and slap in just a little bit of HP there, which will make it even more easy for you to survive. Now, having said all of that, the last thing I want to talk about is going to be the trigger mod. For this build, I'm actually using Battering Ram. Now, I've tested this versus Power Beyond, and what I've noticed is this shows a more consistent increase in damage over Power Beyond. I was really surprised by that because Power Beyond has been the go-to mod for a lot of Descendants. But with the way this works, from my testing, I would go ahead and suggest you slap on Battering Ram. Now, in your own testing, if you do not like Battering Ram, you can always switch this out for Power Beyond. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about how to actually play this build, and this build does have a little bit of a weave to it. The main thing you're going to want to do is open up with a 4 when it comes to any fight. When you do that and you have your Narcissism, go ahead and start spamming your 1s and your 3s as they come off of cooldown. The goal here in spamming your 1 and 3 is to start to get the bonus from your Secret Garden because those are tech skills. Once you get a couple of them off, go ahead and hit your 2, which will detonate them on the battlefield, and that will clear up just a few stragglers that happen to be standing around. By the time you get done with that, your 4 should be back off of cooldown, and then you can use your 4 to run over to the next pack. Once you get there, explode your 4 and then rinse and repeat this process. The main thing to keep in mind is to keep the perk on your Secret Garden up from using your tech skills. Once you get it up, you do not need to focus on spamming your 1s and your 3s as much. And the reason why this is important is because your 4 does more damage for each mine that you have on cooldown. So in an ideal world, you only want to spend the amount that you need to spend to keep the perk on your secret garden up to defeat enemies in close proximity while you're waiting for your 4 to get off cooldown. This isn't something that you need to hyper focus on, and if you do end up just spamming your 1s and 3s more than you need to, it's not going to hurt you in general mobbing. Outside of this, your playstyle is not going to change that much when it comes to you trying to take out bosses. When you see a boss, rush in and hit it with your 4. In most content short of Axion or Purge, you will take enemies into their next phase instantly. If that happens, wait to see where they're going to spawn in at and flood that area with your mines while you're waiting for your 4 to come off cooldown. That way when the boss pops up, if it has enemies around it or mines floating in the air or anything like that, you can detonate your mines to take all of that out, which then allows you to use your 4 a second time and really put on spike damage. Once you've done that, just go ahead and rinse and repeat using your mines and using your 4 till the enemy's dead. Alright guys, and that's it. That's everything you need to know about using Esiemo in the current content and in the game. I actually really like this character and I think he's a ton of fun to play. The main thing I wish was that Esiemo, like a lot of our other descendants, had the range to really compete with some of our top tier descendants. If he did, I do think that you would see a lot more people playing him. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Esiemo somebody that you've ever played with before, or is he somebody that you've never actually picked up but you're considering picking up after watching the guide? And if you enjoyed the content, consider liking and subscribing for more First Descendant content as well as other game coverage in the future. And if you want to get to know me and the community a little bit more, consider watching us either live here on YouTube or over on Twitch. We do stream 5 days a week and we would absolutely love to have you over and get to know you a little bit better. But having said all that guys, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.